Hello, and thank you for once again joining us on Classic Vinyl Podcast. This is the podcast where we listen to and review songs and albums from the classic vinyl era of the 60s and 70s. I'm one of your hosts, Justin, and we all need a friend, and I've got my friend here, my other host, Tyler.
Yeah, and I don't know why it's so difficult to find somebody that needs a friend or to be kind to those who need a friend.
It's because it's much too easy to say no.
It is much easier, but yeah, easy to be hard and social justice.
Something
social
like that,
injustice. Right? Yeah, that's what it is.
So let me ask you, today we're doing Three Dog Night and Easy to Be Hard. What is your history with this song? Have you heard it before?
I think I've heard it, but not really like... It's got a familiar tune to me. I just haven't really ever listened to it.
You really don't know the song?
No, not at all.
So this song was actually suggested to us through our Classic Vinyl Podcast at gmail.com account by John from Phoenix.
Thank you, John. We do read those emails, and we do take them into consideration.
We certainly do. I think we've done one other Three Dog Night song before, so it's a band I quite like, so it's kind of good to get back into them a little bit.
For sure.
Let me give you a little history on the actual band Three Dog Night. They're an American rock and roll band formed in Los Angeles, California, way back in 1967. They're formed of Chuck Negron, Danny Hutton, and Corey Wells. They were the original trio to form the group. All three of those band members were vocalists, and the band name was originally called Redwood. They initially worked with the Beach Boys, mainly on their album Wild Honey, but it didn't really work out for some reason. I guess they were kind of backup singers and doing a little studio work. They changed their band name to Three Dog Night in 1968 after Danny Hutton's girlfriend, June Fairchild, suggested the name. She had apparently read a magazine article about some Aboriginal Australians that would spend cold nights sleeping with a dingo dog, and on cold nights it would be 2 dogs, and super cold nights it would obviously be 3 dogs.
Yeah, man, that's how cool these men are.
Yeah, 3 dingo night.
Yeah.
The naming of the band, that's been disputed by certain people, but I'm going to go with that because I like that the best.
It's a great story anyway.
It is. They soon hired a backing group consisting of Ron Morgan on guitar, who was replaced shortly after that by Michael Alsop, Floyd Sneed on drums, and Joe Shermy on bass, and Jimmy Greenspoon on keyboards. Danny Hutton is the only original member still with the band to this day, and they are still touring. They've had over 20 members in the band and several lineup changes over the years, which isn't really uncommon for a lot of these 60s bands that are still going. I mean, people die out and people change, whatever happens, Three Dog Night has sold almost 50 million albums worldwide, which is pretty decent. They have released a total of 12 studio albums, 4 live albums, 7 compilation albums, and 26 singles in the band's history. Now in the U.S., 9 of those albums were in the top 100. 6 of the albums hit the top 25, with their 1972 album, 7 Separate Fools, being their highest charting album in the U.S. at number 6. They also had some success in Canada with 8 albums hitting the top 25, and their third album, It Ain't Easy, being their top charting at number 5. Their 1969 Captured Live at the Forum also hit number 6 in the U.S. and number 4 in Canada. They have a total of 2 platinum albums and 14 gold albums all in all. Three Dog Night didn't have much success in the UK, but they did have their 1970 song, Mama Told Me Not to Come. Did hit number 3, and that's another one we'll probably do sometime in the future.
Yeah, I am familiar with that one.
Yeah, I know you know that one. That's your kind of goofy song.
It is. I love that song.
So as far as singles are concerned, in the U.S., they had 21 of their singles hit the top 100, 18 of those singles in the top 25, and they had a total of 3 number 1 hits, Mama Told Me Not to Come, Joy to the World, and Black and White. So in Canada, as far as the singles are concerned, they had also had 21 of them in the top 100, with 20 in the top 25, and they had 2 number 1 hits there, Joy to the World and Black and White. This is another band when we're talking about the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. If the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame had any credibility at all, this band would be in it, but of course they don't, and you know my feelings on that. So
they're not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
A lot of bands that should be are not in there, and a lot of bands that shouldn't be are. It's a shame that there's not a real Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
This band belongs in there, if nothing else, just because of the name.
Yeah, I could probably agree with that.
But then again, they're not an untalented band. They're deserving of being in there. They've got platinum, gold.
50 million albums sold worldwide, 3 number 1 hits, a lot more than some of the bands that are in there.
And I think everybody knows the name.
I think maybe not even so much the name. I think they're one of those bands that probably aren't as popular today as they were at one point, but I think everybody knows a Three Dog Night song, if not many of them.
I just think everybody knows the name Three Dog Night.
Yeah, they probably do.
It's a popular band name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So do you want to get the song review?
Yeah, let's review it.
And now it's time for the song review.
So today we're doing Three Dog Night and Easy to Be Hard. This single was released on August 2nd of 1969. The B-side was a song called Dreaming Isn't Good for You. Now this song, Easy to Be Hard, was written by Galt McDermott, James Ratto, and Jerome Ragney. Lead vocal on this is by Chuck Negron. And that's what's kind of cool about this band is they could share vocal duties because not many bands had 3 vocalists, 3 good vocalists. This was recorded at American Recording Studios in Studio City, California, and produced by Gabriel Meckler. We've talked about him before on this podcast. This is a song that was originally from the 1967 counterculture anti-war musical Hair, which if you haven't seen that, you should. It's pretty good. You know, Hair was kind of an interesting thing because it really reflected what the youth was going through at the time with the Vietnam War, drugs, free love, civil rights, and all the other things that were going on in the 60s that were changing the world.
Yeah, it directly addressed the current events.
It did. It did a good job at that. So the original recording of the musical song was released in 1968 and was sang by Lynn Kellogg. We did listen to that. It's kind of an interesting version. I mean, you can obviously tell it's the same song. I don't think it has the same depth to it, though.
No, but she does a good job. It sounds very much like a Broadway musical.
Yeah.
Yeah. But boy, she's got real good feeling in there. I just think that these guys, they're a little bit better at it.
Yeah, I agree. Three Dog Night's the first band to cover the song, and they released the song on their 1969 album, Suitable for Framing. That's their second studio album. So the album Suitable for Framing actually reached number 10 in the U.S. charts and reached number 10 in the Canadian charts. It did not chart in the UK. It's certified gold in the US. Easy to Be Hard, the single, reached number 4 in the US Billboard charts and number 2 in the Canadian single charts. Did a lot better in Canada than here, but it did well both places. Did not chart in the UK.
I've got a theory. I think it did a little bit better in Canada because of all the draft dodgers.
That could be it, maybe.
It's kind of a draft dodger anthem, I think.
So you think everybody that propelled it higher in the UK was actually Americans?
In Canada.
Yeah. Yeah, Americans dodging the draft in Canada.
It's a theory.
Yeah, it could be true. So this song has been covered by a ton of other artists. I was going down the list. Some of the more popular ones are Cher, Jennifer Warnes, Sergio Mendes, and Shirley Bassey. So after listening to this song, I guess, Tyler, pretty much for the first time, we listened to it twice and listened to the original. What are your thoughts on Easy to Be Hard?
It's a pretty song. This song, it's got this sweetness to it in the way that he sings and the way that they play the instruments. It's got this, it's almost beguiling, the sweetness of the melody. But he's singing really mournfully about why are people so ugly?
Well, it seems like a sad song to me. It has darkness to it in a way. I think the voice, I mean, his voice kind of conveys that to me. And so does the music.
Yeah, the voice for sure. But I thought that the tune of it was real sweet and real light. But you're right, there is a darkness to it. It's kind of got a shadow that comes with it. And his message is very straightforward, that why are people so ugly to each other? I said before, why are people so ugly? Well, that's the lyric. But that's what he's meaning is, why are people so ugly to each other?
Yeah, how can people be so heartless? How can people be so cruel? But it's easy.
Yeah.
Right?
It's easy to be hard. It's easy to be heartless. Do they have no conscience?
I guess is he saying that it's a lot tougher to be kind to people and to be friends with people? And
I think so.
Which I guess is probably true. It's, they always say, it's kind of like with smiling. They say frowning takes more muscles than smiling. I don't know if that's necessarily true, but that's what I was always taught in school.
It's still a good metaphor.
Yeah.
This is a conversation that my wife and I have all the time. Is she's really wonders why, how is it that people can not care? How do people go throughout life not giving a rip about anybody else? And it's really a heart-wrenching question to ponder.
I think in today's world, not caring is better than outright attack that we have nowadays. Today's world, there's a lot of that. So simply being neutral and not caring, I mean, maybe it seemed bad then, but it seems like a better attribute now,
Yeah, indifference is superior to the hostility, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's the best way to put it.
Yeah, that's going to be a good point that I'll bring out in our next conversation about it, because we do talk about this quite a bit. But it seems like he's calling out the hypocrites, the social justice warriors that would be going out to rallies and protests and screaming or chanting, and they'd be so angry. It's like, how can you go and fight against an unjust cause or some injustice and then turn around and be just cruel to people? How can you be so unfriendly to the friendless who are in need of a friend, right?
Well, I think the lyrics to this, even though they were written during the Vietnam War and so many things were changing in the 60s, obviously, you could plop this down anywhere, even more so today, and it really has deep meaning. But does any of it really mean anything if you don't pay attention to it and want to change?
Yeah. The more that I listen to this, or the more I think about this and play it over and over in my head, I'm sitting here learning, like, there's so many layers to this. It applies on a very micro level between just two people interacting on the street, and also goes out to the macro level where you have like governments going to war against each other, and both of them are claiming to be for the just cause, and they're both claiming to be in the right. But how can they be? I mean, I'm so in favor. Vietnam, okay? So in Vietnam, we're so in favor of trying to free the Vietnamese from communism that we're going to go over there and kill them and try to kill all the communists so they can have democracy. It's such a strange message to be sending, or such a strange way to try and accomplish that goal. How do you do that? It doesn't really make sense.
It's pretty much the case with all war.
Yeah, exactly. This is a great anti-war anthem. I'm very much in favor of the message, and I love the instruments on it, and you go into the instruments a lot better than I do. So what are your thoughts on this one, Justin?
Well, I think the opening of the song is one of my favorite parts because it does start kind of sullen. It starts with the bass and organ mixed in, and I really like the organ throughout the whole song. I think Chuck Negron does a really good job. His vocal fits is perfect. It's one of my favorite Three Dog Night songs. It really is. Mm-hmm. And it's almost like the lyrics are pleading, how can people be so heartless? How can people be so cruel? And then he says how easy it is to be hard. I don't know. You kind of went through the lyrics. We know what they mean, and you can actually apply them to almost anything. Something you're going through, a breakup or anything you want. But as far as the music, I love how it opens with that bass and organ. The bass throughout the song is pretty thick for 1969. I like the organ throughout the song. It's got decent drumming, but you don't hear a lot of that. And the one thing that's kind of absent, there's a little bit of guitar in there, and what's in there is pretty good, but there's not a ton. I just really like the lyrics, though. Do you only care about the bleeding crowd? To me, the lyrics and the vocals fit this song perfect. You said it's kind of, what'd you call it? Kind of upbeat or whatever. Yeah. I don't find that at all in this song. I find this a very sullen, sad song, almost saying, why are people, I guess the basic message of, why are people so damn cruel?
I think maybe I'm listening to it wrong. I wouldn't say that. I think you're right. It's not upbeat. There's high notes to it, right? And I think those high notes give it like this soft velvet glove touch, right? And so that softness is in line with the message and the singing. It's not upbeat. It's not happy. It is sullen. And it's like a pleading mother, like, with her two kids fighting, and, the big brother hits the little sister, and she's like, why would you hit your little sister? Sort of a thing, And it's that sweet softness that's so sincere, and it fits the tone of the whole song.
Yeah, I think the tone I take away from it is pleading to
Yeah.
why are people just so cruel,
Mhm.
basically, and how can you live in this world, and
Yeah.
why is it so easy to be cruel but so hard to find a friend,
Mhm.
really? But the music is really good. It's not complicated or anything like that. I like how it ends with the long organ chord at the end. It's a good all-around song. It's one I always enjoy when it comes on. I don't listen to it a ton, but when I do hear it, I really enjoy it. So do you want to rate the song?
Yeah, let's rate it.
Song rating.
Okay, listener, if this is your first episode, we'll briefly explain our rating system. It's a scale of 0 to 10, and 10 being the best. I put this one really high up there. I give this song a 9. This is a really good song. It's right up my alley. I'm digging the vocals. They harmonize so nicely. These guys are just a beautiful band to listen to. The instruments are all performed excellently, and everything matches up with the tone of the song and the message of the song. And I love the message of the song. That's another thing that I'm a stickler for, being a lyric guy. Does the message of the lyrics line up with the tone of the instruments? And yes, it does. So I put it at 9. Where do you put this one?
Well, I'm not quite as high as you on it. Like I said, it is my favorite, or one of my favorite Three Dog Night songs. I rated an 8.5. I find the message of the song to be very strong, and it probably shouldn't be a song I rate that high because it doesn't have serious guitar in it like I like. The bass is decent in it, but I think the message is what the whole song's about. And I like the fact that it is sullen and it's kind of pondering for why are people assholes, basically. Yeah. And I like how it can be applied to any situation. I think songs like that even though they may have been written for a specific reason or a specific time or agenda or whatever it is, I like when they can apply here 60 years later.
Mm-hmm.
So great song.
Yeah, you made a point like that this would apply to even a breakup. And it's so true, because how often do we try to like, oh, you'll never find anybody as good as me? Well, that's a cruel thing to say. You know, we say such horrible things to each other when we're going through a breakup. But at the same time, we're trying to get them back, right? It exposes that dichotomy.
Well, John from Phoenix, thank you for suggesting Three Dog Night, Easy to Be Hard. It's a great song. And like always, we really appreciate you listening. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, songs or albums you'd like us to rate, send them to classicvinylpodcast@gmail.com. And until next time, we'll see you later.
See ya.
Thank you so much for listening to Classic Vinyl Podcast. And don't forget to subscribe on Spotify or Apple Podcast or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Follow us on Instagram at Classic Vinyl Podcast for updates, and also share us with your music-loving friends.